Welcome to our second Harmony Core office hours. The goal of this office hours is mostly to answer questions. So I'm hoping that people have questions to ask us so that we can answer something. So if you do have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask it. Okay. I suppose if no one has any questions,
why don't you give an update of what you've been working on?
Status update of what we've been working on for the last 6 weeks or so. So currently our highest priority is the traditional bridge and XF Server Plus migration path that uses the CodeGen stuff to create an analog to existing XF Server Plus clients and servers. That's coming along pretty well. We've got a lot of tests and we've identified most of our shortcomings in terms of functionality and are working to get rid of those. Performance seems pretty good. We did actually manage to deploy it at a customer site and it ended up being faster than the XF Server Plus that it replaced. So that's a good sign. And we're just working on that functionality, get it industrial strength for everyone to actually use for reals out in the world.
That'll be a big test in about 3 weeks' time. I'm going to be visiting one of our customers, long-term customers, who have used XF Server Plus with XF Netlink Con for a long time now, and have quite an extensive application built totally on those technologies. And we're going to be looking at replacing that XF Server Plus part with Harmony Core and traditional bridge in the short term. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's coming together very well. We've done it on one customer. Jeff and I visited one of our customers that's using Harmony Core in production about 2 weeks ago, and did some traditional bridge stuff and successfully got some code, existing code untouched, exposed through a service. And yesterday, in fact, I was working on another customer's code base, basically setting up the environment to do the same thing. So it's proving to be very popular on top of all of the OData services that we're already able to do. The ability to expose all of that data in that queryable way and then enhance the service with custom code is proving to be very popular. Maxime, have you guys done anything with Harmony Core, or are you just looking, just got a level of interest, or have you actually played with it at all, or where are you at with it?
Oh, there's a chat bubble.
Oh, somebody said something.
No mic.
No mic here, we're just looking at alternatives. Oh, okay, all right. So you guys are another example of people who are fairly heavily invested in XF Server Plus. And we do see, we're not suggesting that Harmony Core is going to go away at any, XF Server Plus is going to go away at any point. It's widely used on all of our supported platforms by a lot of people. But clearly the ability to put RESTful web service APIs in front of that kind of stuff these days is definitely the way the industry has moved, not is moving, has moved. So yeah, if you're looking at alternative ways of getting into the data, then that could very well be it. Yeah, certainly a possible alternative for you guys to give you, the ability to expose the data in different ways to different clients, whether you would be looking to redevelop the client applications you've already got, or just use it as a way of exposing data to new and different things, but certainly a possibility. You guys are obviously, it's funny actually, the three primary developers so far on this environment are all on VMS. Actually, no, two of the three are on VMS. The one that's live in production, the one I've been working on this week, and you guys obviously are on the VMS platform too. So rest assured that this works very well on VMS. We've been extremely pleased with the performance that we're seeing from VMS and all platforms so far. The one I'm doing in 2 or 3 weeks' time is going to be an all Windows environment, so it will be somewhat different. Should be even faster actually without the SSH tunnel. It'll be even faster. So looking forward to working on that and reporting back.
I suppose I do have one extra update. It's not really a product update, but we did at a customer site 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. We did manage to deploy. They had a existing .NET web service that needed to be isolated, so they had commons and globals and stuff like that, and they were looking to move their web service to being multi-user. So we were able to just take that code, compile it for .NET Core, and deploy it inside of Harmony Core and get them the isolation for their commons and globals. And it also performs really well, quite a bit better than the app domain solution that we normally use in .NET Framework. So that should be pretty good for them. Seems to be working out in production.
So again, as Jeff mentioned earlier at the beginning of the session, the idea here is to answer questions primarily. Does anybody have any questions about Harmony Core
or seeing as how we don't have other channels, ask us other questions.
Anything generally? Yeah. All right. Okay, I guess we'll wrap it up then.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we have another one scheduled for 6 weeks out. So if you come up with questions between now and then, that'll be a good venue for those questions. Or you can always email us directly, our names at synergex.com, and we'll probably answer your question that way even faster.
And if anybody is out there just looking, early stages, trying to gather information, apologies, this is really not the forum for that. Last time we did we kind of got into just doing product demo. Really don't want to do that every time in these office hours sessions. But if anybody is just looking in its early days and you're trying to figure out what it is and whether it has a place in your environment, then again, let us know. Contact us directly or get to us through your account reps, through Kim or Rachel or whoever, and we'll set up a one-on-one and we'll do get on a web meeting for an hour and do a demonstration and walk you through what it is and how you can use it. If that's appropriate for you, then let us know.
Oh, there are questions.
Oh, okay, Richard.
What is the lowest version
Richard,
of Synergy?
if you're still there, the lowest version of Synergy that this works on. To run a Harmony Core web service, you would have to be in a 10.3.3, basically latest and greatest version on the Windows server where you run the Harmony Core service. But
you don't actually have to have Synergy installed on Windows 7.
Right, it installs itself. It's part of the package. It all comes from NuGet, but it is latest version. But you would, and in terms of doing development, you would need a latest version Windows environment, basically. In terms of interacting with existing back-end systems, that's a good question. We do have some OO code present, so you would need at least, I'm gonna guess, we probably require a fairly recent version. Do you know what the baseline is for the traditional bridge code?
So it depends on the platform you're on. I think VMS requires the newest,
right?
As in it requires like a 10.3.3 something.
Right.
But if you're doing it on Windows with just process, it's a little bit more forgiving. I think you can go down to 10.3.1.
Right. Yeah. So probably a 10.3 or higher. If that's a huge deal for anybody, it could possibly be made to go lower. But equally, Harmony Core could also be a great reason to get up and upgraded onto latest versions. So if we can, if anybody needs help with upgrading, then we can certainly get into that and talk about that as well. Seeing somebody else asking a question as well. Yeah, currently on version 8. Unfortunately, it's not going to work on version 8, Richard. There's some core stuff that we use that just would not work there. But we need to look at getting you upgraded, getting up on a VMS environment, getting off version 8 onto version 10 or 11 very soon should not be that big of a deal. We can certainly talk about what it would take to do that.
There's also alternate installs on VMS.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, as Jeff just mentioned, Richard, another approach is you could do a dual install. On VMS, you can very easily have a a latest and greatest primary version for. All you would be running on there is maybe a bit of code and probably XF Server to expose your data. You could easily have a version 10.3.3G primary install and a version 8 alternate install that you use to continue to run your application. Good point. That would also apply on Linux as well. You could easily do that on Linux as well, and Unix.
We do have a requirement on VSI patch levels, because the SSH stuff requires their, I don't know what that's called.
If you're on VSI VMS, well, if you're not,
Yes.
a lot of people won't be.
There are patches from HP that I think are necessary.
Right.
I'm not sure what they are. We could get that if people actually need to know the specific patch name numbers.
Right. Okay. But whatever, on pretty much on most platforms, on Windows, you can't really have dual installs, but Windows, you could just use a different server to get to things, I guess. So there's always a way, you know, if you've got a requirement, there's always a way. We can figure out a way of configuring it. Any more questions before we bail? No, not seeing any. Okay, thanks everybody.